I opened the front door and just froze. There she was, standing in the driveway, my wife, Lisa, wearing those tight jeans she hadn't touched in months and sporting a smug little smile that had no place in a marriage. But that wasn't what twisted my insides into knots. Not even close. Behind her, leaning up against a shiny new black Escalade like he was king of the damn world, stood a guy I'd never laid eyes on. Tall, tanned, with hair so flawless it looked fake. He had one arm casually draped around two boys, old enough to know when something isn't right. And behind them, clinging to the doorframe like he might float away, was my son, Jacob. His eyes were wide and confused. Lisa didn't even give me a chance to say a word. She flipped her bleach blonde hair over her shoulder like she was in a shampoo commercial and said, "Ryan, this is Kevin, and these are his boys. They'll be staying with us for a while. I think it's time we stopped pretending." I let out a laugh, but not the kind that feels good. It was sharp and empty, like something cracked deep inside me. Pretending? Pretending what, exactly? She walked right by me without blinking. Kevin strolled in behind her, the kids hauling suitcases like this was already their house. "You and I?" She tossed her purse on the couch. "We've been done for a long time. You were just too clueless to see it." Jacob stepped up beside me, his small hand gripping my arm, trembling. "Dad," he asked, his voice barely a whisper, "who is that?" Lisa turned her head just enough to toss back, all smug and satisfied. "He's the one keeping me warm these days." That line didn't just hurt. It lit something up inside me. A fuse I didn't even know was there. Looking back, maybe I should have seen the signs. The sudden late nights. The gym obsession. The tags still on the new underwear that clearly weren't bought for me. The way she'd smirk at her phone like it was telling her dirty little secrets no one else was in on. But I was an idiot. I thought maybe we were just going through a rough stretch. I figured if I kept holding steady, being the provider, the guy who held everything together, she'd come around. Turns out, someone else was already wrapping their arms around her while I sat in the next room, patching up our marriage with duct tape on a sinking ship. "Kevin's boys are sweet," she said with that phony grin. "Maybe they'll toughen Jacob up a bit." That was it. That's when something inside me cracked wide open. But before I could say anything, before I could even breathe, Jacob took a step forward. My 12-year-old son, with my eyes, but somehow more fire in them than I'd ever managed to show. He pointed straight at Lisa and said, loud enough for the whole damn block to hear, "You're not my mom anymore." She actually flinched. First time since stepping out of that SUV, she didn't look so sure of herself. "I saw your messages," he said, his voice shaking but gaining strength. "You told Kevin you wanted to get rid of me because I reminded you of Dad. You called me a roadblock." Kevin shifted like his seat got hot all of a sudden. Lisa's face went pale, then flushed red, then twisted into something bitter. "You little brat," she snapped. "You had no right." "He had every right," I cut in, stepping forward. "Because while you were off playing house with some knockoff Ken doll, he was standing here watching everything fall apart, wondering why his mom didn't love him anymore." She gave me a look like I was something she scraped off her shoe. "Don't turn this into some soap opera. You were boring, Ryan. Predictable. I needed someone who made me feel alive again." "Alive?" I asked, staring straight at Kevin, who still hadn't said a damn word. "You mean this guy?" Kevin finally spoke, his voice smooth and rehearsed like he'd practiced in the mirror. "Look, man, it's nothing personal. Lisa deserves to be happy." I nearly laughed again, but my fists were clenched too tight. "Well, I hope she makes you feel just as happy as she made me," I said, ice in my voice. "Because sooner or later, she'll do to you what she did to me. She always does. And when she does, I'll be the one laughing." Lisa rolled her eyes and turned toward the kitchen. "Whatever. You'll hear from my lawyer. I'm done with this." But she wasn't. Not by a long shot. And neither was I. Because I still had one last card to play. Something she never saw coming. It started with a file I'd tucked away in the bedroom drawer. One she thought I'd never need. I headed down the hall to my bedroom now and opened the nightstand. Beneath a stack of old birthday cards and tangled charger cords was a manila folder I'd been quietly filling for 3 months. I never wanted to believe I'd need it. Hell, I hoped I was wrong. But I wasn't. Inside was everything. Screenshots, bank records, even a hotel receipt from the weekend I'd gone to visit my mom in Illinois. Lisa had claimed she was too sick to join me. Turns out, she wasn't sick at all. She was shacked up with Kevin at the Hilton, healing in a whole different way. There were even printed out Instagram DMs Kevin had sent to one of Lisa's friends, bragging about stealing her from her loser husband. I had it all. When I came back to the living room, Kevin was sprawled out on my couch like he paid the mortgage, flipping through TV channels. His kids were tearing into Jacob's snacks in the kitchen like they owned the place. Jacob sat on the steps, stiff and quiet, still processing, but I could see it in his eyes. That fire hadn't gone out. Lisa glanced at the folder in my hands and rolled her eyes like it was some kind of joke. "What now? You printing off memes?" she sneered. "Something like that," I said, calm. She yanked the folder out of my grip, flipped it open, and just like that, her smirk vanished. "You've been spying on me," she snapped. "Nope," I replied, steady. "I was gathering proof. There's a difference. And now I've got enough here to make sure the only thing you walk away with is your knockoff boyfriend and his snack-raiding kids." She chucked the folder onto the table. Papers flew everywhere. Kevin stood up, trying to play peacekeeper. "Hey, look, man," he said, trying to sound cool. "Maybe we should talk about this somewhere else." "No," I snapped, sharp. "You stepped into my house. You brought this circus into my life. You made it public, so let's keep it that way." Lisa's voice went sour again. "You have no idea what I've been going through. You were never there for me. I was dead inside. And you were just out there fixing gutters and mowing lawns like some damn Boy Scout while I was wasting away. You didn't rot," I shot back. "You drifted. Big difference." And then Kevin, of all people, reached out and tried to put a hand on my shoulder. "You gotta calm down, bro." That word, bro, set something off in me I didn't even know was there. I slapped his hand away and stepped up close. "Say that again. See how calm I stay." He backed off quick. Lisa, clearly rattled now, went for the one card she thought could still hurt me. "You think a judge is gonna side with you after you go around threatening people in front of your kid?" "I'm not threatening," I told her. "I'm finished." "That's not the same thing." And right then, in the middle of that whole mess, Jacob spoke up again. "Can I stay with you, Dad?" he asked, voice soft but real. Lisa spun around, stunned. "What? No. You don't get to choose sides." "I already did," he said. "The second you brought them in here like we didn't mean anything." Kevin's kids looked confused now, starting to sense things weren't as simple as Mom and Dad 2.0. One of them, probably around 9, leaned in and whispered something to Kevin. He crouched down to listen, nodding slowly. Lisa, though, she crossed a line no court order could erase. She grabbed Jacob by the arm. "You're confused. I'm your mother. You don't speak to me like that." I didn't yell, didn't raise a hand, just stepped forward, cold and even. "Let go of my son." She froze. That tone, I'd never used it on her before. It was final. I meant it. And she knew. She let go. Kevin let out a breath like he was only just realizing what he'd walked into. "Maybe we should head out," he muttered. "Yeah," I said. "Maybe you should have thought about that before strutting into a man's home like it was yours, dragging your toy and a welcome mat behind you." Lisa snatched up her bag. "This isn't over." "I know," I said. "It's just beginning." As they walked out, Kevin's younger kid turned back and gave Jacob a little wave. Jacob didn't wave back, just stood there, watching them leave like he was etching the whole scene into memory, so he'd never forget. I shut the door behind them and locked it. Then I looked at Jacob. "I'm sorry," I said. "You didn't deserve any of this." He hugged me tight like he understood I was all he had now. And in that moment, it hit me. I hadn't lost everything. She had. She just didn't know it yet. The next morning came heavy. Not peaceful, just that thick, suffocating quiet that hangs around after a storm, when everything's been tossed upside down and you're trying to convince yourself it's still a home. Jacob didn't go to school. I didn't ask him to. We just sat at the kitchen table, drinking cocoa like two survivors pulled out of the same wreckage. Neither of us said her name. But I knew the questions were there, gnawing at him the same way they chewed at me. Around noon, my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. "Your behavior last night was abusive. You're unstable. I've already spoken to a lawyer. I'll be retrieving my belongings with police presence. Do not contact me again." I read it twice, then held it out for Jacob. He stared at it, blinked, then whispered, "She really said you were abusive?" "Yeah," I said. "After everything she pulled." "Liar," he muttered. That one word hit hard. Simple, honest, right on target. She lied like it was second nature, like breathing. No guilt, no hesitation. But I wasn't about to sit here and let her rewrite the story like she was the victim. She could play that part for Kevin, for the court, for her book club if she wanted, but I had the truth. I had files, screenshots, dates, DMs. I had my son. That was all I needed. 2 days later, she showed up with 2 cops. No heads up, no warning, just knocked like she hadn't bulldozed through our lives. and expected me to open the door like some obedient doormat. There she stood, oversized sunglasses, fake sadness plastered on her face, clutching a tote bag like it held whatever pride she had left. One of the officers stepped forward. "Are you Ryan Howard?" I nodded. "Ma'am would like to collect some personal belongings. Mind if we come in and supervise?" One of the officers asked, polite but firm. I glanced over at Lisa. "You need cops now?" "Really?" She smiled like she'd won something. "Just protecting myself." I shook my head. Should have tried that before hopping into Kevin's SUV. The officer stepped in between us. "Let's try to keep this respectful." I backed off, hands up. "By all means. Let the guest of honor come collect her thongs and fairy tales." She walked in like she still owned the place, headed straight upstairs without so much as a glance at the family pictures lining the wall. That hit me harder than I expected. I don't know. Maybe I hoped for a flicker of something. Regret. Guilt. Anything. But she was long gone. While she rummaged around up there, I grabbed a water from the fridge. One of the cops hung back near the stairs, looking like he wanted to be anywhere else. Then I heard her voice drifting down, loud, smug. "Ugh. This place smells like failure. How did I survive here this long?" I breathed in, let it sit in my lungs, then slowly exhaled. That burn was real. She came back down hauling 2 stuffed bags, clothes, makeup, and one of my watches tucked on her wrist like it belonged there. I pointed. "That's mine." She scoffed. "Please. You never wore it." "I do now." The officer glanced at her. "Ma'am, if he purchased that item, you'll need to leave it." With a huff, she peeled it off and tossed it on the couch like it was something filthy. Then she turned to me, her expression smug again. "Kevin's already planning to propose." I stared at her, didn't flinch, didn't blink. She tilted her head. "Just figured you'd want a heads up so you can start moving on." I gave her a slow, cold smile. "Already did." That one landed. I saw it. Just for a second, her blink slowed, her shoulders stiffened. And then, like fate had a sense of timing, Jacob came downstairs. He was holding something in both hands. It was a framed photo from his 5th birthday, him with frosting on his nose, Lisa kissing his cheek, and me holding them both. He walked up to her, silent, and handed it over. She looked confused. "What's this?" "So you remember what you threw away?" he said. Then he turned and walked straight out the front door. One of the officers cleared his throat. "That's everything, ma'am. We're done here." She didn't say a word, just followed them out, clutching that photo like it stung her fingers. I stood in the doorway and watched them disappear down the driveway. And for the first time in all of this, I didn't feel broken. I felt clear. No more lies. No more pretending. Just truth, and the strength that comes with finally seeing things for what they are. Because I wasn't the one hiding anymore. And the truth? It had teeth. I had one last move to make, and this time, I wasn't holding anything back. The morning after she came for her stuff, I filed the divorce papers. No drama. No announcement. Just clean, sharp action. I handed everything, every bit of evidence, to my lawyer like a loaded weapon. He flipped through the folder, paused a few times, raised his eyebrows. "You've got enough here to bury her," he said. "Good," I told him. "Let her do the digging." I didn't warn Lisa. Didn't call or text. I let the papers speak for me. Served right to Kevin's front door while she was inside, playing pretend with her new, perfect family. I like to imagine her face. The smile she probably tried to keep on in front of him. The excuses she might have made. Just paperwork, right? But it wasn't an accident. I wanted him to see it. See exactly what kind of woman he'd hitched himself to. The kind who turned her own kid into a problem and her husband into a backup plan. The kind of person who lies so often she forgets what the truth ever sounded like. 2 days later, my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. It was Kevin. His voice was low, uneasy. "Hey man, I think we should talk. Call me back when you can." I didn't call. Didn't even think about it. Instead, I took Jacob fishing. We drove out to the lake just outside town. No phones. No noise. Just the slap of water and the breeze moving slow through the trees. Jacob didn't say much for the first hour. Just sat with his line in the water, quiet. Then, while tying on a new lure, he looked over and asked, "Do you think she ever really loved us?" I didn't lie. I think she loved the idea of us. When it was easy. When it looked good on paper. He nodded, like he'd already figured that out himself. "I don't miss her," he said. "I do," I admitted. "Not who she is now, but the version of her from back then. The one who danced in the kitchen while the pancakes burned. The girl who cried when we brought you home from the hospital. But that woman was gone. Somewhere between Jim's selfies, Kevin's abs, and her sudden allergy to family dinners. When we got back, there were flowers sitting on the porch. Cheap ones. Still wrapped in grocery store plastic. No card. Just silence pretending to be remorse. I dropped them straight in the trash. Later that night, my lawyer sent me a recording. The private investigator I'd hired had something. Kevin, dining out with someone new. Not Lisa. Younger. Same smug look he wore with Lisa. Same restaurant she used to beg to go to. Waitress confirmed. He'd been showing up with this other woman for a month. Overlapping timelines. Karma didn't waste time. But I didn't tell Lisa. Not yet. Instead, I sent her one message. Your little fairy tale's cracking. I'd stick close to home this week. That's what I texted her. 10 minutes later, she fired back. What the hell are you talking about? I didn't answer. Left it hanging. 2 nights after that, there was a knock at my door. It was late, around 11. Jacob had been asleep for an hour. I opened it, and there she was. Not the polished version she'd paraded around lately. No Kevin. No makeup. Hoodie, leggings, hair twisted into a bun that said more unraveling than cute. Ryan, she started, trying to sound steady. Can we talk? I stepped outside and pulled the door shut behind me. No. She flinched at the word like she didn't expect it. It's important, she insisted. What? I asked. Kevin dump you already? Her mouth twitched. Yeah, that one landed. I got the divorce papers, she said. I know you sent them, but maybe we rushed this. I let out a dry laugh right in her face. You rushed. I just stood still and watched it happen. She looked away, pulled in a breath. He's not who I thought he was. Shocker. I made some mistakes, okay? Big ones. I see that now. You didn't just make mistakes, Lisa. You chose them. Over and over again. She got quiet. I don't want Jacob to hate me. Then maybe you shouldn't have dragged a stranger and his kids into his home like you were starting a reality show. I didn't know what else to do, she whispered. That's always been your problem. You never think past the moment. Then she laid a hand on my arm and said the thing that still pisses me off to this day. Maybe we could fix this, for Jacob. I just looked at her. Really looked. Then I took a step back. I already fixed it. The second you walked out. I turned around, opened the door, and closed it behind me without another word. She didn't knock again. But I knew better. She wasn't done. Not by a long shot. And neither was I. 3 days went by. No calls. No texts. No cheap flowers or half-baked apologies. Then Friday rolled around. I pulled into the driveway after work and saw her car already there. Tires turned in like she was planning to stay a while. She was pacing in the front yard, arms folded, wearing a black dress that screamed look at me and heels that had no business on grass. Her lipstick looked like a crime scene. She didn't look like someone trying to fix a family. She looked like she was headed to Vegas. Jacob was still at school. I figured I had 20 minutes before the bus pulled up. I got out of my truck and didn't say a word. Just walked toward the house. She lit up like we were on good terms again. Ryan, you look good. I walked past her. What do you want, Lisa? She followed me up the steps, clinging like perfume you can't wash off. I talked to Kevin, she said, all casual like we were catching up. We decided it's not working. Just too different. The boys didn't get along. Tragic, I muttered, unlocking the front door. She didn't wait to be invited. Just slid right in like the past few weeks hadn't happened. Sat on the couch like it still belonged to her. I've been thinking, she said, smoothing out her dress. Maybe I made a mistake. You did, I said. Actually, a long list of them. I wasn't myself, she said, giving me that wide-eyed look she used to get away with when she crashed my truck or drained our bank account. You know how lost I was. I needed to feel seen. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed. So your solution was to cheat. Lie. Humiliate me. Bring some stranger into our home like we were disposable. She opened her mouth, but I cut her off. And when that wasn't enough, you accused me of abuse to cover your own shame. Filed first to make me look like the crazy one. Told our son he reminded you too much of me. Need me to keep going? Her fake smile faltered. That crack in the mask grew. I want another chance, she said. Her voice broke a little. Not for me, for Jacob. He deserves a full family. I looked at her long and hard. Then I laid it out. I already filed for full custody. You'll get visitation. Supervised. Until Jacob says otherwise. She shot to her feet, anger flashing across her face. You can't do that. I already did. You want to fight it? Bring your folder. I'll bring mine. She narrowed her eyes. You think this makes you the better parent? No. I think staying through every lie, every shutdown, every time you locked the door at night because you couldn't be bothered, that makes me the better parent. She was breathing heavy now. So was I. We looked like two fighters in the final round, too tired to throw another punch, but too bitter to quit. Then I heard it. The school bus. Jacob. I stepped out onto the porch as he climbed down. Backpack barely zipped, hair messy from the wind. When he saw her, he stopped. Cold. Mom, she said, trying to beam. Hey, baby. He didn't smile. Why are you here? He asked. I came to talk to your dad, she said sweetly. Just grown-up stuff. He looked over at me. I gave him a slight nod. He walked up the steps and stood beside me. Are you staying? He asked her. I was hoping to, she replied. No, he said. You shouldn't. And just like that, her face broke. The practiced smile dropped. I saw it then, real fear. Regret. A flicker of something human, but too late for it to matter. Okay, she whispered. I'll go. She turned and headed back to her car, heels sinking into the grass. Just before she opened her car door, she turned and tossed one last jab over her shoulder. He's going to regret this. One day, he'll ask why I left. Before I could say a word, Jacob beat me to it. No. I'll remember. Then he turned and walked inside. I followed, closing the door behind us. And for the first time in what felt like forever, the house felt like ours again. Not perfect, not whole, but honest. And I'll take truth over whatever twisted version of love she was offering any day. The week that followed was quiet, but not the peaceful kind. It was the kind of silence that hums beneath your skin. The kind that tells you something's coming. Wednesday night, I was setting out grilled cheese and tomato soup, Jacob's favorite, when my phone rang. Unknown number. Again. I was ready to ignore it, but something in my gut told me to pick up. Ryan Howard? A voice asked. Yes. This is Officer Sanchez with the County Sheriff's Department. We've received a complaint filed against you. Harassment. Possible endangerment of a minor. I just stood there, frozen. What? The report comes from Ms. Lisa Howard. You're being accused of making verbal threats, displaying emotionally abusive behavior, and denying her access to her child. I couldn't speak right away. My jaw was clenched so tight I thought it might snap. We're not filing charges at this time, he continued, but we do need a formal statement, ideally with your attorney present. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. I understand. I'll have my lawyer reach out. I hung up, my hand shaking. Jacob looked up from the table, eyes wide. What's wrong? I forced a smile. Just some paperwork I forgot about. I didn't tell him the truth. Not yet. But inside, I was seething. She wasn't done. She couldn't just walk away quietly. Couldn't accept that she'd blown it all up and lost the only people who ever really gave a damn. Now she was trying to rewrite the story, cast herself as the victim and me as the villain. The same woman who left her family for another man was now trying to slap a label on me as some kind of threat to my own kid. After dinner, I called my lawyer. He wasn't surprised. She's cornered, he said. She's realizing the grass over there is dead, and now she's trying to regain control. The silver lining? I documented everything. Let her come, he told me. Still, I couldn't sleep that night. Just laid there, staring at the ceiling, turning over every moment I'd ignored. Every lie I dismissed. I should have seen this version of her earlier, but I didn't want to. I wanted to believe she was just lost, not calculated, not cruel. Turns out, she was both. And the worst part? She was still Jacob's mom. The next day, she crossed a line. She showed up at Jacob's school. The divorce paperwork was crystal clear, no contact without prior approval. She didn't care. She waited for him after the bell, cornered him in the parking lot, and tried to talk him into coming to her place for a few days. He said no. She got upset, loud enough that a teacher stepped in. By the time I got the call, the principal had already pulled Jacob into the office. Lisa was gone. Security cameras caught enough to report a violation. That night, she texted me. You're turning my son against me. You'll regret this. He will too. I didn't reply, just screenshotted it and sent it straight to my lawyer. That weekend, I finally sat Jacob down on the couch and told him the truth. Not the ugly details. He's still a kid, but enough. Your mom's going through something, I told him. She's made choices I can't protect you from anymore. But I'll always make sure you're safe. No matter what. He nodded slowly. I know, Dad. I see it. Then he said something I'll carry with me for the rest of my life. I used to wish she'd come back. Now I hope she doesn't. I didn't know what to say. Part of me broke for him. But another part? It felt like peace. He wasn't blind anymore. Neither of us were. Sunday morning, a letter arrived. Her official response through her attorney. She wanted joint custody. Split time. 1 week with me, 1 with her. It was laughable. But I didn't laugh. Because I knew this wasn't about being a mom. This was about control. She couldn't walk away clean, so she tried to punish me for holding my ground. She thought I'd give in. Thought I'd cave under pressure. But she forgot something important. I don't lose to liars anymore. Not even the ones I used to love. Then came court day. I stood in front of the mirror that morning, straightening a tie I hadn't worn since my father's funeral. I didn't wear it for Lisa. I wore it for Jacob. To show him that even when everything feels like it's fallen apart, you can still hold your head high. You can still have dignity. Jacob didn't come with me, of course. I didn't want him anywhere near that courtroom circus. He was with my sister, probably eating Pop-Tarts and kicking someone's but an Xbox. And I hoped to God that he wasn't thinking too hard about what his parents were about to drag out in front of a judge. My lawyer met me out front at the courthouse. Cool as ever. The kind of guy who could be sipping coffee while the roof caved in and not spill a drop. I always respected that about him. She'll probably go for the sympathy card, he said. Tears, guilt, the whole grieving wife routine. Just let the evidence speak. That's where we win. 10 minutes later, she arrived. White blouse. Hair tied back neat. Barely any makeup. Like she was attending a church service, not a custody hearing. Trying to sell that innocent, heartbroken act. The poor discarded wife. Kevin wasn't with her. I wasn't surprised. I figured that ship sank fast after his side fling surfaced. Good. Let her taste the other end of betrayal for once. The hearing started calm. Basic introductions, background, the usual protocol. Then her lawyer stood up and started spinning his tale. And man, it was like he was describing a completely different world. Mrs. Howard, he said, has suffered years of emotional neglect. She tried to save the marriage, but was consistently dismissed. Yes, she made a mistake, but only after Mr. Howard isolated her emotionally. Now she simply wants to rebuild a bond with the child that's been unfairly kept from her. Unfairly kept, he said. That one stuck. Then my lawyer stood. Calm, collected. The man had everything. Dates, screenshots, receipts, call logs, you name it. Every missed visit. Every voicemail. Every time Jacob cried after another no-show. Every lie in her own handwriting. He laid the folder on the judge's desk like it was a loaded weapon. The judge flipped through it silently, but when he looked up at me, I didn't see pity. I saw clarity. Then came her turn to speak. And that's when the show started. Tears. Trembling voice. She played it like a script she'd rehearsed in a mirror. I just want my family back, she whispered, voice cracking right on cue. Kevin, that wasn't what it looked like. I was empty. I felt invisible. Ryan didn't see me anymore. She looked right at me, eyes wide, like she expected me to nod, to validate her story, to take some blame. I didn't blink. When it was my turn, I kept it simple. No theatrics. I loved her. I gave her everything. And she didn't just leave, she blew the whole thing up. She brought a new man and his children into our home like we were replaceable. Then, when it fell apart, she tried to come back and play victim. I paused, then added, but this isn't about me. It's about Jacob. And all that boy wants now is peace. The courtroom went quiet. And in that silence, I swear I heard something shift. 3 days later, the judge gave his ruling. Primary custody me. Visitation, every other weekend, supervised. Any violations? Visitation rights suspended immediately. She didn't cry. She simmered. Her jaw was tight, eyes darting between the judge and me like someone rigged the game. Outside in the parking lot, she came after me. You think this is over? She hissed. You humiliated me in there. No, I told her. You did that to yourself. I just stopped covering for you. She leaned in, that fake sweet voice back in play. You'll regret this. He's still my son. I stared her down. You had a son, and you lost him the moment you picked a stranger over him. She didn't answer, just spun on her heel and walked off. And right then, standing in that parking lot under a cloudy sky, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Freedom. It didn't fix everything. It didn't undo the pain, but it was a start. That evening, I picked up Jacob from my sister's place. We didn't talk much on the drive home, but about 10 minutes in, he looked over and asked, did we win? I smiled. We didn't lose. And for now, that was enough. The weeks that followed felt different. Not lighter. Not easier. But real. No more fake apologies. No mascara-streaked driveway appearances. No text trying to twist the knife. No sad monologues left on my doorstep. She started fading from our daily life like smoke clearing after a house fire. And in that space she left behind, peace started to grow. Jacob smiled more. Ate better. Slept deeper. The dark circles under his eyes started to disappear. The kid who used to freeze when the doorbell rang? He started humming while brushing his teeth. That was the win. Not the judge's signature. Not the custody label. That. But of course, she didn't stay gone. She called. Once. Twice. 3 times. Left voicemails that bounced between pitiful and poison. I miss him, Ryan. You don't have to be so cruel. You've poisoned him against me. You're disgusting. Then back again, like she couldn't decide if I was the villain or the man she still thought might forgive her. Maybe we can talk. Start over. That was the last thing she ever texted me. I blocked her. Let her shout into the silence where she belonged. A couple months passed after the hearing. One evening, Jacob came into the living room holding an old photo album, big, leather-bound, the one Lisa insisted we put together after he was born. I hadn't touched it since everything fell apart. He sat next to me on the couch and flipped it open, the pages soft from time but heavy with memory. Do you think she ever looks at these? He asked, eyes on the pictures. I didn't answer right away. Then I said, yeah, I think she does. I think she stares at them and knows exactly what she lost. He nodded, slow and quiet. He pointed at a photo, me holding him in the hospital, eyes red, smile barely holding. Lisa was beside us, glowing like she'd just found her whole world. She used to be good, he whispered. People change, I told him. Sometimes for the better. Sometimes into someone you don't recognize. He looked up at me. I'm glad you didn't change. I smiled and ruffled his hair. I did. I just didn't break.